High performers are often seen as competent and successful individuals. But behind the external facade, many struggle with self-doubt and insecurities. The pressure to constantly excel and meet those high standards can take a toll on even the most accomplished individuals, often leaving them with a sense or feeling of inadequacy and the fear of failure. Despite their achievements and accolades, high achievers may question their abilities and second-guess every decision they're making. The fear of not being good enough can hold them back from achieving their full potential. And did you think you had a monopoly on self-doubt? You're not alone. When we talk about self-doubt, it really is hitting a core part of our self-identity. It begs the question of our worth. And our worth, or any person's worth, is a two-part thing. It's about how we see our capabilities, how capable we are, and how we see our likability of how likable we are. But self-doubt really focuses more on the capability piece. There is no person who has not doubted themselves at one time or another. The bigger issue is when it becomes a pattern. The bigger issue is if you constantly deal with the self-doubt through maladaptive ways. And there are 5 possibilities of how people typically engage with self-doubt when they are doing so in a maladaptive way. So in this video, we'll talk about those 5 ways so that you can steer clear of them. And then we'll talk about the 7 ways that you can productively or adaptively respond to self-doubt. So let's begin with the maladaptive ways. The most common way a lot of people deal with self-doubt, especially when they're embarking on something super challenging, perhaps a very complex project with multi-stakeholders, multi-layers of complexity, and they're not sure that they're up for the task. What do people do? They self-sabotage themselves. They look for a handicap. Why? Because if I fail, I can blame something or some other factor that is responsible for the failure, not my competence. So an example of a self-handicap is whether it's procrastination, so delaying not working on that project, some sort of drugs or addiction, whether it's overindulgence in alcohol or socializing outside. Sometimes it could even be distracting yourself from this project, working on something else because you are not confident you can succeed. And when that imminent failure comes, well, it's not because I'm not capable. It's because I didn't start soon enough. It's because, oh my God, I was drinking too much, or whatever handicap you choose. If you're curious about why would somebody do that, the thing is, we want to protect our ego. And it's easier to believe that the failure is because of something external to me, even though it's a behavior I engaged in. But it's not about my internal capabilities. So that's the most common way people self-sabotage themselves, because they, when doubting their own capabilities, create other plausible reasons for that impending failure. The second way people deal with self-doubt is they will come up with an attribution that the people they're competing with or against have some sort of upper hand in a situation. It's called the Other-Enhancement strategy. So mentally, I am bolstering myself that if I fail, it's not because I wasn't capable, but somebody else had a head start. They have an advantage or privilege that I don't have. And sometimes it's true. But how is that serving you to think about all the possible excuses that you are creating at this stage, where you have the autonomy to actually influence and focus on the outcomes alone? So, the second approach also gives you a better feeling of protecting your ego, that the possible failure, if it occurs, is not because of your capabilities. The third maladaptive way is where people withdraw altogether. Self-doubt becomes so crippling that you stop raising your hand to say, I will take that project. I'm happy to take the initiative. I'm happy to lead this. or I'm interested in the promotion. Withdrawing yourself from the arena means that you can't even play the game. Now, there's no chance of losing, but there's no chance of winning either. It's unfortunate when self-doubt becomes so debilitating that we just withdraw from every possible way that we could have succeeded or contributed meaningfully to things that matter to us. The fourth approach is interesting. It's actually counterintuitive. Some people, when they're experiencing self-doubt, will exert extra effort, will go absolutely laser focused on accomplishing their goal. They will expend more effort than maybe even is necessary. Now you'd say, what's the problem with that? The problem is when they succeed, they still don't feel the joy and satisfaction of internalizing that success as something that they own. They attribute it to hard work. And they constantly live with this uncertainty and fear that the day I stop working as hard, I will not be successful. See, people think confidence is a mental game. But the reality is, confidence is the repository of successes from your past. If I have done hard things and persevered through them and accomplished them, I know I can do other hard things. But if I feel, well, it's not me, it's just how hard I work, and the day I stop working that hard, I won't be able to accomplish those things. Do you see how it creates a cycle of uncertainty and not owning and benefiting and having the joy of the successes that you get? So as much as you may think overachieving is a great substitute for overcoming self-doubt, the reality is it actually works very similar to the other strategies that are maladaptive. And the last piece is imposter phenomena. And we've talked about this in the last couple of videos. So many people, when they experience self-doubt, especially chronically over time, they lose the confidence in attributing any of their successes to themselves. They find some external luck or some external intervention that led to their success. There are many challenges with imposter phenomena, but it can become very debilitating, and that self-doubt can become the constant voice, because then it translates into the ultimate fear of being found out. The world finding out that you're not as capable as they may think you are, that your successes, your achievements and accolades are all a facade. It can be a very debilitating feeling and can often lead to the other maladaptive options, such as withdrawing altogether. So those are the 5 typical maladaptive ways people deal with self-doubt, starting with finding something that could handicap them, the self-handicap piece or self-sabotage. The second piece was around other-enhancement, thinking that other people have a head start of some sort. The third is withdrawing altogether from the game or the challenge. Fourth is overachieving, the counterintuitive piece, so that no matter what success you've accomplished, you attribute it to the hard work and not to your capabilities. And the fifth is the development of the imposter phenomena. So what is the solution? The solution is identical to what I shared a couple of videos ago about dealing with imposter phenomena. Let's starve the self-doubt. STARVE is an acronym of 7 things that you can deploy individually or collectively to deal with the self-doubt and to build your muscle to constantly deal with it, so that over time this self-criticism and doubt, that sound lowers. Either lowers in its volume or lowers in its frequency, so that you can enjoy the successes that you're accomplishing. S is for separating the stories from the fact. And one of the great ways that I recommend a lot of my coaching clients to start building their internal confidence by creating a solid repository of their past successes is start journaling. And if that's not your scene, try apps. There's a wonderful app called Win Streak. It's available on Apple, Google, any format. And it's a simple idea. At the end of the day, you are creating a habit and a commitment to write one success for the day. It could be something as simple as Despite my self-doubt, I calmed my nerves and I gave a great presentation. Or it could be that I did not even want to say that I will lead the project, but I raised my hand. What happens if you do that every single day is with neuroplasticity, your brain starts seeing that every single day you have some sort of success to celebrate. And if and when that self-doubt becomes crippling, you can just open that app and look through, oh wow, okay, I have a lot of successes. So you have tangible evidence to counter the narrative or the story that you're telling yourself, or that voice of self-criticism is forcing upon you. So separate that fact from fiction and see what emerges for you. T is for tenderness. Tenderness towards yourself. It took me a long while to really appreciate the need for self-compassion. And self-compassion is a multifaceted idea. Simply, it's kindness to yourself. And there are many ways to be kind. One that I'm inviting you to ponder on is, please don't think you're so special that you're the only one dealing with self-doubt. No, you share that with the humanity. You share that with everybody who is living right now or has lived in the past. When you recognize that this is not a unique experience, you will normalize it. You will stop giving it the value that you do in terms of the decisions that you make subsequently. So lean on that self-compassion and kindness by recognizing your shared humanity. That tenderness will stop, again, whether it's the frequency of that self-criticism and doubt or the volume of how often you're hearing, how loudly you're hearing it. A is the awareness. Can you start paying attention to what are the contingencies under which you have the greatest amount of self-doubt? If it's a certain group of people or a person that you experience self-doubt with, what about that context is triggering that self-doubt? Is there a lack of validation or some sort of sabotage happening in that relationship? Are you putting that person on a pedestal, and because you give them so much value in your mind, it creeps more self-doubt about your own self-worth? Or is it about a type of project? And you notice that every time I take on something new that's a little bit of a stretch goal for me, I feel self-doubt come up. That level of awareness of knowing what the patterns are can help you make sense of knowing when you experience self-doubt and how you can deal with it. Because then it's not a global feeling. And knowing that some level of anxiety or self-doubt is good for performance. It shows that you care. What you're doing matters. Fourth is reflecting on your prescribed prototypes. Prototypes are these schemas or ideas that we grew up thinking about. Either we saw this on TV, our parents reinforced it, culture, you name it. We have these ideas about who is the ideal person of how people work on a certain project or who works on a certain project. And when we don't match that prescribed prototype, we end up doubting if we're the right person for that job. So question, which prototypes are you holding on to? And reflect on how is that serving you. The fifth piece is, independent of when and how often you're experiencing that self-doubt, if you can ground yourself in your values, you will end up showing more authentically. It doesn't mean that the self-doubt will go away, but it definitely will give you greater pride and confidence and conviction in doing what you need to do. Why? Because you are being true to yourself. So leaning on your values can be a great counterforce to overcome the self-doubt so that it doesn't debilitate you. It may not evaporate, but it doesn't disallow you from actually doing the things that matter. And the last piece, E, is experimentation. It is harder to fight self-doubt. It's harder to debate with your mind about all the things that it is saying you're not good at. Instead of fighting, what if you just let it be? And instead you took action. You could build a habit to say, Anytime I hear that self-doubt come up, I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm going to redirect my focus onto the task at hand. Any action will actually help you change how you feel about that action, can also influence how you think about that action. We often think that we have to think a certain way so that we feel a certain way and so that we behave a certain way. But the reality is, and the father of psychology, William James, said that over a century ago. Some of the recent researchers like Herman Ibarra have talked about it. Our actions have the ability to influence how we feel and think about things. So what could you experiment with the next time that self-doubt creeps up? You do these things, you will be starving self-doubt so that you can do things that matter to you. Not let self-doubt hold you back so that you can live to your fullest potential. Breaking through self-doubt is a journey, but with perseverance, you can continue to thrive and be the high performer doing meaningful things for yourself and others. I hope this was valuable to you. If there is someone else, a friend, a colleague you feel is debilitated or negatively impacted by self-doubt, please share this with them and subscribe to my channel for additional content. Thank you so much for watching. See you again.